And really that's what we're here for. A lot of the information you're gonna see is just general awareness. All these topics, you can go in depth, like literally we have to take training for several weeks at a time. It's ongoing training on a yearly basis for us. We do a lot of things with this information, right? So to cover all that in 1 hour and say, you're gonna walk away from this as an expert, probably not. But that's not the intent of this. The intent of this is just to make you aware as parents, right? To understand that some of this stuff is potentially going on and you might not be aware as a parent. So we wanna kind of let you know a little bit of what's going on, right? A lot of this is not meant to also make you an expert to the sense where you're gonna profile, but you can have a conversation with your child, right? Of, hey, some of these are at-risk behaviors that we were told on this workshop. What do you got going on? It'll at least kick off that conversation, because really, the only way any of us can have an effect is if we have open conversations, good communications with our children, right? That's really at the end of the day what's gonna solve this, and we work in conjunction with you guys to make that happen. I'll let Detective Place introduce herself, and she's gonna be obviously a big portion of the presentation as well.
Good evening, my name is Detective Elizabeth Place. I've been with Paso Robles 3 years. Been up at the Detective Bureau for almost 2 years. I lateraled over from Bakersfield. I worked out there for 5 years. So a little bit of the information. For our detectives here, we have 3, and we're general detectives. So we don't just specialize in one thing, we do everything, right? We do everything from robbery, sexual assault, child pornography, embezzlements, you name it. Our detectives, we all do that. So we're well tasked with everything. We're pretty well rounded. But some of the stuff that we're seeing now is a little bit more social media, more cyber crimes. And I think a lot of people, like when you hear cyber crimes, you're like, whoa, what is that, right? It's so big and so broad. We talk about dark webs and all that kind of stuff. Like my partner mentioned, we're gonna go through a little bit just to give you an insight of what we're seeing, the current trends, what's going on. And everything is always evolving. One app can be used for something and then another one pops up. I mean, you can go through your app store and you'll see how many applications there are now, right? So just realize that we want to keep it in a positive forum. We want to educate everybody. We have people with different ages, so we just want to make sure that we kind of bring that topic up, okay? And so we'll start first with our kind of gang presentation, and Officer Canizales is going to go over it.
So again, being that this is gang awareness, it's strictly that awareness, right? I got this information from subject matter experts. Like I said, it's a big, big topic. This is not meant for you to go walk away, and especially what we really want to avoid is profiling, right? Some of the things you'll see is with like sports attire, for example, this signifies this signifies that. That's not all inclusive. I like the Dodgers, right? I wear Dodger blue. My son likes the Oakland A's. He wears Oakland A's gear. That in itself does not make you a gang member. Styles vary and change, right? Somebody that's wearing baggy pants and a white t-shirt does not make them a gang member.
It's just fashion.
It's a style. So I want to lead with that disclaimer. This is not to empower you to go profile people. This is just for you as a parent to be aware that, hey, maybe we got 2, 3 of these things in line. Maybe we need to talk to Junior about what he's doing or what he's wearing or why he's doing it, right? So that's kind of really what this piece is. So it's going to be a really quick overview, but I always like to say that right off the bat, right? So Hispanic gangs, very predominant, especially in all of California, but in the area we're in, right? So some basics, we have Sureños and Norteños, or Southerners and Northerners. Southerners typically wear blue. They rock the number 13 because it stands for the letter M. Everybody works for somebody. So in this case, they work for the Mexican mafia inside of the prison, right? So everybody works for a much bigger organization. And then we have Northerners, which use red and the number 14, and they work for, they're in allegiance with Nuestra Familia. So again, just very general information that I'm sharing with you guys as to how and why some of these organizations work the way they do. We have tattoos like this. These kinds of tattoos are somebody who's been in that organization for quite a while. But what we see, or we can see in youth, is some mimic behaviors to these things, right? Somebody potentially drawing this in a notebook, somebody maybe drawing it on their skin with a pen. Those are some of the things and some of the reasons why I show you these tattoos, is not to say this is the only way these gang members are gonna look at this is a very significant marking on somebody's body, right? So again, general awareness. Some things you will see is we have the color blue, the number 13, some of the Roman numerals, right? One of those, like I was mentioning earlier, you'll see a lot of sports memorabilia. We also have the number 805. We have Firestone Brewery right down the road, right? Just because I'm wearing a Firestone sweatshirt or hat does not indicate that I am a gang member. It is a very common symbol. But you have that in conjunction with some of these other things, again, we can start the conversation. And that's why we're doing these workshops, is so we have that exchange with the community, not just here, but afterwards. You can talk to me, I'm at the schools, right? We have a concern for a student. You can talk with the district, they're involved and they wanna know. Some of these things, again, we have markings that are Aztec. They don't teach Aztec in school. Most people don't know these numerals, right? So we start to see these markings around, it's worth asking those questions. Next slide. So one of the predominant ones here, obviously in Paso Robles, and some of these statistics are a little bit older, but again, they're important just because of the history of the location and the importance in San Luis Obispo County, particularly here in the city of Paso Robles. So primarily Hispanic membership. Again, it's starting Oak Park housing project. Typical things you'll see associated, right? PR 13, sometimes no Roman numerals. Again, you can see mimic behaviors with some of these things. That means somebody's talking to that juvenile, potentially influencing that, right? Some of these things are also generational, so they might have an older sibling that might have some of these tattoos, but now they paid their dues, they're out of prison, out of jail, out of that lifestyle. So again, not to judge somebody just because, hey, they have this marking now, that doesn't mean they don't have a prior history, and really that's on us to kind of learn. So again, more markings, things we will see. Again, somebody more established kind of with that lifestyle, but also some very, very common things we see, such as the 805 and the Oak Tree. We do live in Paso Robles. So not mutually exclusive, but a danger, right? Here we have, again, some of the Dodger blue. I could be wearing the same jacket, but we have more than one thing, right? It's not just somebody wearing a jacket, now we're throwing up hand signals that indicate I might be associated with somebody, right? Then we have also markings, we have tagging, all these things that go together. So we see the 3 dots, we'll see some of these things, graffiti, where when we as law enforcement see that, obviously we pay attention, we notate it, and we go from there. Again, these are some very common markings for other gangs in the area. Common things you see amongst them is the number 13, right? So just some commonalities. Again, not one thing in specific is gonna say this person is that or the other. And not to mention, with criminal activities in general, all this continues to evolve, right? And really at the root of it, that's what we're paying attention to, is the criminal activities associated with all these things, right? So continuing, again, some common markings, more sports memorabilia. But again, not just because you're wearing any of these things does that make you automatically their gang member. So here again, we're gonna be talking a lot about social media. Some folks post this stuff online. Like, it's not, to them, it's not a big secret. They are proud of sporting that kind of stuff. So again, it helps us further our investigations as well, right? So that's the reason some of these things evolve. Now we have Northerner gang symbols. Originally was meant as part of really an agricultural community. The Welga bird is something we will see as a common marking, and something, again, somebody might want to mimic. It's not necessarily they're involved already, but an early warning sign worth having a conversation with that youth, having a conversation with the school, and definitely us as law enforcement, right? We want to be involved in those conversations. The only way, again, you see a lot of the color red. A lot of these things can be mitigated by having these open conversations. These types of workshops hopefully help facilitate that. At the end of this, we will have a Q&A section, and that's just meant to facilitate that, and so with that, we know as law enforcement also what the community desires, what the parents are wanting to learn and know, because they might not, right? And some of that is just parent involvement in general helps quell a lot of these issues, and gangs is no different, right? So that's my spiel on the gang awareness, but we have some more interesting topics. Social media being one of the bigger ones that really affects our children. Oh, and we have babes, which again, everything is interconnected. The internet is a great tool, but it's also created a lot of issues for the world in general, right? So with that, we have vaping, which is a very common issue that we see and feedback that we get from the community as well. So this is, again, we do this in Spanish and English primarily, this presentation. So some of the reasons teens might vape is you're gonna see right here, and Detective Place will explain some of it as well. Obviously, I see a lot of it as a school resource officer, so I address it with parent involvement and with the tools we have as law enforcement as well.
So obviously we're seeing a trend, and I think, one of the biggest thing, I think as parents, and I have kids in the school district, so I'm obviously invested, I'm here, I live in this community, so for me, it matters, right? And it's no better thing when you have officers in your community that are invested, their kids have gone through the school system here, and so you wanna know what's going on, right? And so I have one in a high school and I have one little one, right? And so biggest thing is, like, as a parent, we all work, right? We're all busy, we all have things to do. 24 hours is not enough. I wish I had more, right? And when we have situations, when we are dealing with teens and stuff, it's like when it's at the worst, right? It's at that's it. Like, now we have to be involved, right? And one thing about us is we can easily say, you know what, here's your citation, here's your and there you go. And what difference did we make, right? We didn't get anything, we didn't solve it, they're gonna get another vape, they're gonna do it again, they don't care. So as a parent, sometimes when we come across that, and I've seen it a lot, and I talk to a lot of parents, and when I talk, they're like, well, I was mad, I was upset, I yelled at them, I told them, what are you doing, this is dumb. And if you're getting yelled at, do you listen? Does anything come through? No, right? Like, you're getting yelled at and someone's telling you you're doing this, you're gonna turn into that, you're not educating them. And sometimes as parents, we react that way, and it's not so much that we're mad, it's just we're scared. We don't know how to solve this, right? When's the last time that you asked your kid if this is going on? How many parents do that? Right? But I don't see that many hands, and I think everybody had at one point children or not, I don't know. But it was stuff that we weren't seeing, right? It's all technology based, it's all like, it's getting more sophisticated, it's insane to me how they're making these vapes look like a USB drive, that small. So we're looking at why do teens vape, right? You kind of see it, it's being introduced by a friend or family. So that's someone close to them, right? Someone's getting to say, hey, you know what, I got this, you wanna try it, this and that. Another reason is that the belief that vaping is less harmful, which is not true, and we'll show pictures about that. And then another thing is, people think it's cool, right? How many celebrities, how many rappers, how many pop singers, how many people do we see on the street are doing that? And they're cool with their smoke, and they make like a dragon and something crazy, right? I can't do that stuff, like, that's just weird. But that's what you're seeing, right? So they make it look super cool, super fun, that's what's in, and that's how they trap you, right? That's how they get you, but they don't tell you all the bad things that come with it, right? And at the school level, I mean, we're seeing it sometimes very young. And how do you stop? You have to educate that, right? At the end of the day, we can give you as much information, but we are not parenting people's children, right? That's the parent's job. We can only do so much, and that's where we need help. But our point of this is to kind of start the conversation, right? Not make it awkward, and just kind of get there, because if we don't have these meetings like this is our first one, then we're not trying to find a solution, right? We're trying to just kind of push it away and ignore it.
And a lot of it falls into that relationship building category of that's why we're doing these things, because not only does it help us develop a relationship, but then you can go and ask your kids that question, and you can develop a relationship with them of open conversations that are gonna help them in the long run, right?
And so how easy is it, right? We're getting physical locations, retail stores, gas station, convenience stores, and that's where we partner up with like tobacco, ABC, all these other resources that we have with the county. They start doing little stings, and they go in there and they send someone that looks pretty young and tries to, and it works, and some places do it, some places don't. But that's how easy it could be. And then social media. I would ask, do you know who your kid is texting? Have you checked their Snapchat, their Instagram? Do you guys want it? Does your kid have any of those? Right? When's the last time you checked?
I haven't.
You haven't, right? And it's not that it's a bad, it's just, we don't have time. We get lost in every other thing, right? The milk is expensive. I had to buy chickens because the eggs got so expensive, right? I went through that phase. That was me. I'm the chicken lady now, right? But I'm not crazy, I swear. But those are the things that are happening, right? Like, how often do you check, right? I'm an officer myself, and I don't allow my daughter to have social media. Has she tried? Yes, she has. And do I scare her with things? I have, but I'm not there 24 hours. I can't be. I have to work. I have another son. I have my husband. I have my chickens. So it's a lot, right? And it's sad to say, but I wish, but all I can do is, well, one, I scare my kid, right? But I try to talk to her and say, hey, what would you do if this happened? Or, how many people do you see this? Or what? I opened that conversation because I remember my parents were immigrants, they didn't speak any English, and so even worse for them, they didn't understand. Back in the day, they didn't. They relied on us to be the translators, and I would tell them, no, I didn't get that grade. She said I did great. I was the best student in the world, right? And they didn't know any better, but we have to open that conversation, right? And so, like I said, I went on Facebook and I got chickens. Don't you think it's that easy for them to get a vape? Right?
Or drugs.
Right? It's so much, right? And you're thinking like, well, what does it look like? No one's saying, hey, can I have some drugs? They're using emojis. Emojis mean so many different things, right? I see the prayer one. A lot of people send that, but in reality, it's two hands giving a high five, and people think it's a prayer. It's not. It's actually two high fives. So when people put that, like, hey, I'm praying for you, no, it's two hand high fives. But right, everything can mean something different, right? So that's what we have to think. Facebook, market, Craigslist, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Snapchat is big because the message technically goes away, right? It goes, they look at it. No, it's not true. I can find everything. If I were to take your phone and take it and download it and do a forensic analysis, I can pull all that. But that's obviously with more intrigue. But what you think can go away, it's not true, right? And so when people think that's what happens, it's not the case. So obviously some of the effects, people like, back in the day, I don't know if you remember Dare. I don't know if anybody grew up in Dare. We're both from LA County. I grew up in Los Angeles in the city of El Monte, and Dare was big, and I grew up in Southgate, and they used to bring all the cool stuff, and then they would be like, dare not to do stuff. But those are the images you would see. You don't see that anymore, right? They're not showing this kind of stuff, right? Like your kids are like, there's no way that would happen to me. I have braces, like it prevents it. Like there's no way, right? It's a barrier. And you get answers like that and you're like, no. Cheetos get stuck there for weeks. Imagine everything else, right? And so you have to think, like you have to actually show them images because now the attention span of kids and most adults, 90 seconds or reel, an Instagram video, right? That's how it is. So remember that when sometimes they have to see stuff like that. I'm sorry, but it's a reality, right? All right, let's play one.
Bring in the influencers. Today I'm auditioning influencers to promote Depression Stick online.
What is it?
It's a vape pen. Like all those vaping companies, the nicotine can amplify feelings of depression and anxiety.
So it purposely makes people sad?
Talk to your followers.
So look, I can't do that, This is a sick thing.
Other influencers have.
I don't care.
So the Truth Campaign is a huge one at the national level, right? Trying to, again, educate people on what exactly the dangers are of continuing to do this, especially in a developing body, developing mind. We'll go over more of the side effects as this goes on, but depression is a huge one. And the unfortunate part is we are seeing addiction even with tobacco vapes at a very young age, right? That's a substance that's now introduced to the body, and that person's body is now adapting to it. So we'll go over a few more of those things, but that's really a good campaign for this kind of stuff.
It's Paso. I should have it on now, but I'm okay. Keep the sand out of me. Dirt, etc. No. I went back to the so I never go up. And I was whole line. He actually came out, and I overlooked. And one time, a year ago, don't know one of my words back.
the attention span sometimes. But those are the videos that it's good to look at them and watch them and kind of, that opens a topic up, right, with your kids or with your family members, like, hey, this is actually something that's real, right? Back in the day, they actually used to play videos like that, and I remember I was so traumatized. I had trauma. And my mom's like, this is gonna happen to you, oh my God. So remember that, like, right? It's not so much to scare, but it's the reality, and sometimes, like the influencers, they even recognize it, like, I'm not gonna do this, but our kids are so sometimes obsessed with some of these, or like anything they do, I want it, you know, I want a smushy pillow, or I want this. Think about that, that's how much influence. So would you rather then teach your kids, like these influencers, what cool is or not, or telling them like, yeah, use a vape, it's cool, or open that topic of conversation and, hey, you know what, this is why it's not good or not, right?
Yeah, let's not forget about TikTok on that social media.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there, sir.
Dancing, yes. There's so many apps, right? And so this is kind of in Spanish where you'll kind of get the gist of it. If it please.
Look what I've got. Chocolate. But you won't believe this. Dulce de leche. Las voy a rellenar de dulces. We're having dinner soon.
You just missed the tobacco industry's latest scam.
Look what I've got. Chocolate.
Because you were supposed to.
But you won't believe this. Dulce de leche. Las voy a rellenar de dulces. We're having dinner soon.
They're using flavors kids love to hook them.
Visite doblofresno.com para más información.
So big takeaway from that, obviously there's a baby portion of it, the parent involvement, right? Parents busy doing what parents do. They're trying to get the house picked up. They're trying to go to their job, do their thing. Meanwhile, there's an open door with 2 children in there doing what they're doing, and nobody stops to look or see even remotely what they're doing, right? Which is unfortunate and common. So it's incumbent upon us as parents to be involved in those conversations as to what's going on. And then again, some of these workshops are to help with that kind of stuff too, so that way we have an awareness of, because honestly, there's a lot of people that don't know that there's a chocolate flavored refill for the vape pen or a dulce de leche, and mom's fine, because she's like, well, I already told my daughter what's wrong with that, what the pitfalls are, but doesn't bother to check back in, right? So that consistent thing is super important in this whole model.
Yeah, and those are, I mean, they're making crazy flavors like Fruit Loops. I like Fruit Loops, but they make them, like, my kid loves Cocoa Krispies, and they wouldn't know, right? They're like, oh, well, that's cool, it's just a vape, it's all that. Again, they're marketing to our children. They're coming after them with this kind of advertisement, right? Like, it's not bad, it's Cocoa Krispies, it's Cocoa Puffs, right? So think about stuff like that. That's how much it's hidden.
I'm not telling you. Is he cute? You're so annoying. Is it the boy that always talks to you? Maybe. Him?
Yeah, I
Really?
know he's not popular, but I like that.
You just missed the tobacco industry's latest scam. Because you were supposed to.
So minty.
So doesn't that look like a USB, like something to charge with? Like, that's how easy, and like you wouldn't even know, right? Could probably find something like this and be like, oh, it's a control, and then it's a vape. That's just the way that marketing goes and stuff like that. Again, always asking and seeing what's going on with your kids, it's key to all of this.
Wow.
And so how does vaping and mental health, how does it affect, right? One of the things that I wanna kind of touch base on is kind of the mental health aspect. I think with parents, and sometimes it's like, well, they find out, right? Let's look at a scenario. They find out, hey, he's smoking, I want you to quit, right? How many of you guys quit soda? Can you quit soda just like that? No? If I took your favorite thing and just like that, I'm gonna take your candy, I'm gonna take your soda. People leave it for lunch. I'm like, I'm gonna give up soda, right? It's hard. When you have a substance like nicotine that's actually affecting their mental health, and it is so hard, how can you get them to stop? So if you have your kid or your son or daughter, and they're vaping, even if when they're adults, right? And you see them and you tell them to stop, you can tell them to stop, but what resources are you giving them? Right? Do you guys know where to go to get resources? In our county? In the schools? All that? No, right? That's the thing, is where are the resources? And we have to bring that up. We have to talk about that, right? And so I know they do presentations at the high school level, but we're seeing it also in the middle schools. We're seeing, so at what age should we do it, right? Should we pick this age, whether a little bit older or this young? Like, we have to think, it's sooner we're having these talks, and it's unfortunate, but we have to right? We have to have these talks. 2 weeks has been shown to help stop vaping, right? Truth created this text for youth, for them to kind of like start texting them, and they start interacting with someone from the Truth campaign, and it gives them the resources. Hey, you know what, like, it keeps them more confidential in a text format, because that's how everybody communicates now, right? They want to talk. And it starts sending them resources, or telling them like, hey, you know what, this is what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a hard process, but we're gonna get through it. You need support for everything, right? For them to kind of understand how they're gonna get to that point from starting to quitting. And it's not easy, and it's not something where you're like, well, here, just stop. It's more complex than that, right?
And it takes multiple resources to accomplish that sometimes, because like we're saying, right, there's a mental health aspect side to it. There's also the chemical dependency side to it. So it's gonna take a lot of resources, but they're available. Us as parents, we need to, for one, identify that it's happening, and then identify or reach out to somebody, whether that be the schools, law enforcement, to try to get some of those resources, right? And then reach out to the county. The reason that text works really well is because eventually it does start localizing some of the resources available to that person. Of like, hey, this is what's available in your town, even though it's a national program, right?
So little things that you can see, it says it can amplify your symptoms, depression, anxiety, mood changes, angry, sad, irritable, distant, stress, sleep problems, weight gain, memory, concentration issues, headache, digestive. It might seem like a typical like teen or someone that's hangry, but right, because I think we can all relate to that. But these are some of the things that are even more, like, think about it, someone that's still not developed, their brain's still getting more, their hormones, and you start adding this, it's messing out, right? It's kind of caused some type of disruption between that. So even though if you see this and you're like, it's a typical teenager, they're just crazy, like, right? No, maybe there's a little bit more. Let's dig into it, right? Let's use critical thinking, let's apply to that and say, just ask a conversation. Hey, I noticed you're being super moody today, right? Or something like that. It's a way to talk. They might tell you to leave me alone, right? But don't let that be don't let that barrier, like, you have to advocate for your children at the end of the day. That's the most important thing out of here, is everybody, we cannot, like I said, we can't parent, we can't go to everybody's house, but if we can start the process, but just giving the topic of conversation, then we're doing something right. So just look at those kind of symptoms that they have. Sometimes they can be related. So that was our presentation on vaping. We'll go into social media. It's in Spanish, like I said, we've been doing this in Spanish, but it'll translate and everything. Part of my assignment, like I said, we're general detectives, so we deal with everything, but I take a little bit more focus on crimes against children. I'm in a task force. It's the Internet Crimes Against Children. It's based out of Fresno. Our county falls into that. So what I deal with is NCMEC, which is the National Missing and Exploited Children. And so they created this task force with all these other social media giants, applications, and so I deal with a lot of child pornography and sexual abuse and stuff like that. So I kind of see a little bit more of the darkest stuff that I wish nobody has to deal with, right? But it all starts back with social media, and it is so dangerous. It is so, I wish I tell parents all the time, you know, when's the last time you checked their Instagram, their Snapchat? Do you know who they're texting? Do you know who they're talking to? So if you went right now to your kid's phone and then you open up their messages and they have someone with a number and they tell you, oh, it's Mike. Mike works, Mike's with me at the school. Do you know if it's really Mike? Or is it Mike who's 52? Right? Or Veronica who's like 36? Because we're seeing a lot of women now, actually it's increased. It used to be not as seen, but now it's a lot, you're seeing a lot, right? We see a lot of those cases of the teachers or stuff like that, or the coaches. It comes in all different colors and all different genders. But we always kind of focus on the male, but think about that when it comes to social media. Do you guys recognize some of these apps? Which one do you recognize?
Fortnite.
Ooh, what do you do on Fortnite? Tell me everything about it.
Play.
What else do you do?
Crank.
Crank? What's crank?
Like, I don't know how to explain it. But
Well, tell me everything about crank.
like, where you build what? I don't know.
Do you build like world? How is it? Can you tell me all about it? Which one do you recognize? Omegle?
Snapchat,
Okay.
Roblox, Discord, Instagram,
Twitch.
Fortnite, and Among Us.
So how many did you recognize? Almost all of them. How many do you recognize, parents? Or grandpas or aunts and all that? 3 over there? 3? 3? 4? 4?
I know more
Yeah?
Snapchat and Roblox and Discord.
Discord? Do you guys know what Discord does? Do you know what Twitch does? Hot or not? Hot or not? No? Right? So these are just a few, right? And these are the ones, so I kind of do sometimes is I go on, if I want to learn how an application is being used, I download it, I use it, I create a profile, I say I'm Cindy, that's 11, and I'm here because I love softball and I love candy. That's me, right? So that's what we're doing, and that's what our kids are doing, right? They're like, hey everybody, I love candy and I like softball. But do I know if the other person is also 11 or my age? No, right? Roblox and stuff like that, Fortnite, a lot of these have a camera when the kids are playing. Have you ever seen that? The kids are playing and it's recording? What else does it record besides them? Their voice, what else? What's in the background? Their rooms, right? They can find out that they go to Paso Robles High School or Flamson Middle School or Georgia Brown, and they like soccer because they have a soccer trophy. How much information, and did the predator have to leave their house? No, we're giving them all the information right there and then, right? For free. All I have to do is download this, pay a couple bucks, and then I have access. Yes, sir.
Fortnite's actually free.
Oh, it's free? I don't even have to pay for it. You see that? Did you guys know that?
Sometimes when they have a camera that's like a stream. that they're
It's a
doing-
stream, so they watch you?
No, it's like showing them and the screen.
On the screen? Can you message on them?
As long as you have a mic, yeah.
As long as you have, did you guys hear that? Did you guys learn? So as long as you have a mic, you can stream, right? You're an expert. You're gonna come up here. You're also, yes, sir.
You know that Omegle is like, has no security at all. It's like, you know what you're doing, you can find for someone.
And we're gonna use Omegle in a little bit. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to use it, right?
So I want to use it now.
No, we're not gonna use it. Let's get it. But those are just some of the applications, and if your kids have them, oh, sorry, Siri doesn't understand you. But if your kids are doing that, if you don't know how to use them, how are you gonna educate? How do you know who they're talking to, right? And it's scary, and I'm not here to scare someone, but it's kind of to bring awareness, right? To kind of get a better understanding. Again, this is in Spanish, but it kind of, if you get the, can you make it in the caption? So one of the biggest things that we talk about is grooming, right? It's when an adult is contacting a minor, or they have some sort of relationship where they're in a sexual interest, right? That's a grooming, right? It comes in all different sorts of, right? They always look at people of authority, right? Who's a person of authority? I am, right? A police officer, a teacher, a church member, a youth group, Boy Scouts, everybody, right? Anything, most kids they look at an adult and they're always thinking that's a person of figure, right? And so almost, I wanna say from the statistics that almost 80% of the grooming that process is someone that they know, it's not that stranger danger that we all talk about, the ice cream truck and, it's not that. It's people that are online looking, right? They're going after, and so that's one of the things of processing of grooming, telling them like, hey, how's your day? I just met you, and they start learning more about them, right? You're building that relationship, right? So just like him, I start talking to him, what am I building? Rapport, right? I'm getting information out of him. And soon after I'll be like, you know what, maybe I want something else, right? Right, so all that is part of the grooming process.
A Los Angeles man has now been charged with kidnapping, raping, and murdering a Bakersfield teenager. Charges that could carry the death penalty. 17's Karen Watt joining us now with the latest on this case.
Patricia Alatorre was just 13, gone way too soon. Last night, the community held a vigil for her, and today, as her alleged murderer is about to be arraigned, more people have shown up to support her family.
Alatorre's family is one step closer to justice.
Today, I filed 12 felony counts against Armando Cruz for the murder of a 13-year-old victim.
Those 12 counts include first-degree murder, kidnapping, rape, and other disturbing charges involving contact with a minor. Cruz, who's 24, pleaded not guilty to all charges. He's been denied bail.
Those special circumstances in connection with the murder carry the death penalty, a life without the possibility of parole.
Now we will have some kind of closure. And I just want to thank everybody because we came together as a community to do all this.
The community first rallied to bring Alatorre home when she was initially reported as a runaway.
You guys all helped me find my sister. It took a couple of days, but we found her.
Being a sister, a daughter, and an aunt, we all have a patio in our home, and very close to home.
Unfortunately, it was not the homecoming anyone envisioned.
I think justice would be ensuring that the DA prosecutes this person by the max of the extent of the law.
And that is heartening that we see a crowd like this in support of victims.
There's now
So how far is Bakersfield from us? Not that far, right? Right? So this just happened, I want to say 2-3 years ago. I followed this case closely because, like I said, I lived in Bakersfield. And so that's the thing that keeps me up at night, right? That's the stuff that scares me, that I think about, but that's the reason why I educate myself. Our department's great at training and sending you, because like I said, all these applications are new. So we have to research them, right? So by the time that I get this investigation, which I get a lot with different applications, I need to know how to use the application. I need to know how the retention works as far as information, what search warrants I need to write, all that information, and it's key, because right, applications are always new. There's a new one, there's gonna be a new TikTok one day, right? There's gonna be a new Instagram. I'm in the MySpace era, right? But look how much, I don't wanna age myself, but look how much it's gone, right? My top 8, my top 3 bands. So think about that kind of stuff. My goal, like I said, I have a big investment in this community. My children go to the school here, I live here. And so that's what I don't want that to happen. And I focus about Paso Robles, that's my city. I'm very invested in it. So some of the things that you can do, learn about the applications, right? Download it one day and see how it works. And if you don't like it, delete it, but you know what I mean? How else are you gonna learn? If your kids are using Snapchat, do you know how to use it? Do you know there's a feature that they can hide it? You know what I mean? Or they can retain it? And they keep it in a little vault and they just enter a pin and you won't be able to see that folder. You have to go into it. Or right away, what Snapchat does is when you sign up for Snapchat, it asks you if you will allow them to see your location. And most kids want all their friends to know where they're at, because right, it's cool. I'm in Pismo taking pictures, right? And who else can see that? It's public. Everybody can see that. So if I decide to friend your child, and they leave their GPS location on, then I know where they're at. I know where they're at, right? Who else is gonna know? So think about that, things like that. Look at the risk and everything. Figure out what questions, like if someone sends your kid something that's inappropriate, all that, how are you gonna react? Are you gonna react lashing out? Is that gonna solve anything? Or should we have a conversation if this happened? Because more than likely it's gonna happen, it's sad, but they're gonna receive messages that are inappropriate. One of the things that we're seeing a lot is a sextortion. Have you guys heard about that? No? They send me, you befriend them, and then they're like, you know what, I'm gonna send you a picture of me, and they send one, right, a weird one. And then they're like, can you send me one? They're like, all right, well, you send me one first. So yeah, you know, like back and forth. And then as soon as they send that picture, they're like, boom, I got you. I want you to give me $100 every day on the dot. And if you don't, I already have all your friends because now I'm a friend of your group and I'm gonna message the photo to all your friends, right?
Yes. Can't you just unfriend that person?
You can, but what if they're like scaring you and telling you stuff, right? So there's different things, right? They can create another account, right? I can create as many accounts and they want you to pay them $100 every day. What kid has $100? They're gonna get desperate. Don't say you said you. We need to be friends. Money. And so those are the things, it's like, after a while it gets taxing, right? And so like, I don't know what else to do. How do I get, if I tell my mom or my dad, they're gonna get mad at me. They're gonna take my phone. We've seen it so bad that kids are committing suicide over that kind of stuff because they cannot take the pressure. And how do you help them then, right? They just send a picture of themselves, you know, probably in a very bad situation or exposing themselves, and they don't want mom and dad or their friends to see that. And what is it now? The social pressure, the anxiety that social media builds is creating that whole thing that they're like, there's no way out. How do I get out of it? And sadly, it leads to that, right? Or we get parents who are like, well, we already did it. Tell us, contact us, right? I can figure out a way to, but we have to open that topic for your kids to tell you, hey, this is what happened. I'm sorry, like I messed up. We all make mistakes, right? We were all that age at one point. The problem with that is that we didn't grow up in this area, right? In this time of social media. We were so able to go outside and play and do stuff, and like I said, MySpace was around my time, but it wasn't that, I think back and I'm like, it could have been worse, right? Like, it's just scary to think that way, right? The little thing that we're seeing a little bit more is cyberbullying, so just remember those are topics that we're seeing. Another thing that we'll touch really just very lightly is human trafficking. I think the times where people were like, yeah, they're in the corner of things, and men and women, right? That is no longer. Now there's actual websites where they can say, hey, Craigslist, hey, this on Instagram, meet me here, meet me there. We're surrounded in a tourism area, right? We're in an area where there's a lot of hotels, a lot of Airbnbs, all that kind of stuff. We don't know everything that's going on, right? Or people that travel. Think about that. Some of the things that we see and in areas that we receive bulletins is a trending of like human trafficking, becoming a person. You see certain markings, the money bags, you see a lot of money bags, the names of the person that's, pimping them out, right? Stuff like that. But it doesn't mean, just because you see this, like I said, it doesn't mean that you're part of that, but there's certain tags or certain tattoos or marking or common things that you'll see them trending in stuff like in human trafficking. And human trafficking isn't just also the exploitation of children, because a lot of these are minor and you don't even know. So when I tell people what's the difference between the two, a person trying to contact them and then someone actually paying for them, what's the difference? It's still child exploitation, it's still child abuse. There is no difference. But when we see people that are victims of that, we're like, you know what, whatever. We don't want anything with that. We don't want to be associated with that. They're still children. There's a lot of them that started at a very young age and they didn't know how to get out, right? So we have to think of how we're gonna help them, how we're gonna build resources. So just understand that, like I said, we're hoping one day we can focus on maybe one topic and then have a workshop like that, but this is just kind of like a general idea. Last year I was part of part of the ICAT task force. internet crimes against children. And so I was able to go out to Fresno as part of our agency and represent, and I acted like I was 12, 14, right? I made myself look different and all that. You know, different angles make me look different. And so part of this, I started using one of the Kik, that's what I used. I used Kik, I downloaded, I made a profile, and right away I started getting messages. And one of the suspects that contacted me, within 2 hours, we had him arrested from the time that I was chatting, because he wanted to come have, you know, relationships with me, with a minor. Within 2 hours, we had him there and everything.
Yeah, I've watched several documentaries and my Kik is really sketchy.
Kik is sketchy, right?
Yeah,
It's a trip, the way they do different things and how it works, so I'll play this really quick.
Lauren, thank you. Developing tonight, 19 men in Fresno County have been arrested for arranging to meet with children for sex. The men were caught through Operation Hook, conducted by 17 local, state, and federal agencies. CBS 47's Liv Johnson joins us now live in studio with more on the operation. Liv.
Now, these arrests all took place within just 4 days. Undercover agents say they were online messaging with the suspects, pretending to be boys and girls anywhere from 12 to 15 years old.
These people knew. They knew. They made arrangements to meet with somebody as young as 12 years old.
Video shows Fresno County Sheriff's deputies arresting Alexis Rosas, one of 19 men taken into custody through Operation Hook, Hands Off Our Kids.
So just to touch this guy right here, that was my suspect, Cameron. And Cameron wanted to do a lot of different things with me. And he sent me pictures and all that. And so, like I said, within an hour, 2 hours, they had arranged a special house to meet. And he went there happy, ready to go and all that. So this one was my guy, so I take pride in this one.
During these investigations, these suspects used sexually explicit language and sent graphic photos to the detective pretending to be a child.
17 law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and U.S. Secret Service, were involved in the takedown. One of the suspects is 38-year-old Mark McGill, who works for the U.S. Forest Service. Officials say he arrived at the meeting site in a department fire engine with the intent of having sex with a teenage girl.
They come from all walks of life. They are all ages, they are all colors, they are all races.
During Operation Hook, the Fresno Police Department was also conducting their own operation, setting up online dates with suspected human trafficking victims. A total of 9 women were rescued.
We are starting to get the reputation here in Fresno that this is not a good place to do this. We're going to protect our kids. We're going to rescue the victims, but we're also going to hold people accountable.
Operation Hook is an ongoing investigation that could result in more arrests. The 19 men arrested face
So that's just what we did, and that's part of, so like I said, our department is part of this task force that's based out of Fresno. And so we go out there, they train us very well. We get a little bit more training, and so that's one of the benefits of our department is that we get extensive training. And so imagine this is an operation, I think it was 3 or 4 days, and they had such, and it's increased because of COVID, right? A lot of contact and all that. But I had one that I was still chatting. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to Paso Robles and I'm gonna go visit my dad and this and that. And he's like, oh, well, I'll meet you, right? It's that simple, right? And so to kind of end, I know he talked about Amigo, and I know a lot of people don't know about Amigo. And so I'll kind of share what Amigo is. This is how easy, I don't have to put anything. What does it say right there? Talk to what? Stranger danger, right? And so all I have to do is read. Do I read it at this? No. Do I have to be 18 or, do they know that I'm 18 or older? If I'm like 12? No, right? And so I can just put teen because, right, I want to be in a group chat. And then all I do is start doing a text. And the stranger, what does F mean? Female. Ah, he knows, right? And I'll just say, well, I'm a female and I'm 12. Right? And then I'll just wait, and then if they bore me, I'm like, oh, I'll stop, and I'll start a new chat. Nope, I want to talk to someone else. I want to talk to a male. Let's see. Oh, I found a male. That easy, huh?
They say it's monitored, but
Oh, he disconnected. Right? Let me try another one. Let's maybe I'll say on the mail, right? And I can keep going and I can keep asking and all that, right? So, and this is just a text, they have an actual video format. So they can just put me, and I've gone on there and I've clicked on it when it's video, and I've seen very weird things, right? Things that nobody, but what is a child this age, if they click on it, you're like, what is that? Why is it doing that, right? So think about that, that's how easy, and this is not an application, this is online, and he knew about it, right? So did you guys know about this? No? How scary is, thumbs up, yes. That's what we have to look at and all that, so that's just, like I said, it's a little bit of insight. I'm sorry it took a little bit more longer than I should have, but it's just to bring awareness. Hopefully if you guys are interested, we can bring more topics if they're more specific, or a workshop on working on one specific app, but it's kind of all based on feedback. We don't know, like we said, we started with ELAC in Spanish, and it worked out well, and so that's why we're here now. So thank you. We'll take questions? Yeah, take a few questions.
So, yes.
Sorry.
You mentioned tobacco, which is good. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you, police department, for doing this. But there was no mention of vaping, cannabis, which is a big problem because of what it does to developing brains. So, are you seeing that in the schools? Are you seeing that off campus, where children that are under 18 are using cannabis products, edibles, things of that?
So when we talk about the vape problem in general, we also are contributing part of that to marijuana usage. And unfortunately, yes, we are seeing it. I couldn't give you an exact number right now off the top of my head, but we do see it in the schools, off sites. Like it is a problem, and then the schools are really good about involving us when it's something of that nature, whether it's tobacco or not. But we conduct our investigation and we take appropriate actions based on the situation.
Another question? Yes, sir.
You know, people know a lot about bad stuff about TikTok. They're hearing about it. And I just read yesterday an article that TikTok pushes suicide videos on 13-year-old children. And it says it takes only 10 minutes after creating an account on TikTok for the algorithm to begin pushing suicide videos to 13-year-olds.
Yeah, it's all based on algorithm. If you start liking one video, they'll start sending you more and more and more. Like, I'll say, like, I want McDonald's, and they'll send you all these videos of McDonald's. I don't know if that's happened to you, but that's how it works. It's all based on what they're looking at. So if they start seeing, like, if I were to go on TikTok and start looking at vaping and, like, cool designs, I'm gonna start getting all these videos that are about vaping, right? It's all based like that. And so how many hours are we spending scrolling? Do we have time limits on our kids' phone numbers? Do we have restrictions? No, we don't, right? I don't think a lot of parents do. So that's what we have to think about. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So, so in order to help stop the good kids from being wannabes to the games, what in your opinion, what's the solution?
I think
How
it
do we
starts
stop this?
it starts at home, right? It starts at home, and that's the reality, is that, like I said, we can educate as much as we can. We're not there 24 hours. We can't parent, right? That's the parent's responsibility, or their guardian. We can provide them the resources. We can educate them. You know, right now we have a little bit more parents than juveniles, right? So it's something that we can make something that's more based on them, that they're more related. And sometimes they don't want to watch it with mom and dad to get the first information. But ultimately, it's dependent on the parent. It's what resources.
What's the consequences to the bad guys?
What bad guys? Or bad girls, because we have them both, bad girls and
Yeah,
boys,
to
right?
gang members, that you know are gang members.
So-
They have to break the law first before you can remove them.
Well, yeah, it's like anybody else, right? They have civil rights that we're gonna protect, so we can't go around just profiling somebody. Not that we want them to conduct a criminal act before we take any sort of action for that. So that's part of why we do this. That's why we like the parent involvement, so all those things can happen, and then we go from there, right?
So one of the things that, you know, I think Paso Robles should pride itself on is you don't have a huge gang problem, right?
Who are you?
I'm sorry, Chief Dingendorf, for those of you who don't know me. Is there a problem? Look, if we have one gang member or one drug addict, there's a problem. Period. It doesn't have to be 2, it doesn't have to be 100, it doesn't have to be 1,000. If we have 1, it's a problem. And that's, you know, that's our job. Our job is to try to educate, try to reach out. We try to, when we see someone who is a gang member or we believe is associating with a gang, we are going to reach out to that person. We are going to go talk to that person and we're going to try to find out, are you really in a gang? Who is trying to influence you? Who brought you into the gang? How long have you been into the gang? And then we try to document that. Again, if it's a gang member. Because there's a lot of times, unfortunately, in this world, like you just saw, with social media, with movies, with all of these things, it's cool. They try to make it cool. They try to make it neat. They try to make our kids do something just because they think they see it in a platform that makes it great. Sons of Anarchy, biker gangs, all of these shows, what does it do? It glorifies it. Society is glorifying these things. So the first thing we need to do is find out, is this person actually in a gang? Or are they just playing? Because we have those. We have kids who just think it's cool to, I'm gonna start throwing gang signs, or I'm gonna put a draw of 13 on my arm. They're not in a gang. They don't even know what a gang is. They don't understand. So we try to educate them. We will contact the parents if we can and try to educate the parents, which is why we're starting these workshops so we can try to get ahead of that game. You know, we're trying to do this on the forefront. We are trying, just like you said, how do we keep our kids out of it? We talk to them. We engage them. We tell them what we expect from them. This is okay, this isn't. If this happens, these are the consequences. As a parent of 3 kids, you explain to them the consequences for them. If you do this, or if I find out you're doing this, this is what you're going to lose, or this is what's going to happen to you. You know, those consequences have to come from home. Again, once it gets to the point where we're seeing it, yes, we're going to engage them. We're going to do everything we can to get them out of a gang. You know, but again, sometimes that's generational. Sometimes my dad was, my uncle was, my cousin was, whatever it may be. So this is a long game. This is something that we have to get back into talking to our kids. We have to work with one another. Everyone has to work together. The schools, police departments, families, you know, counselors. This is a group effort. This is a group effort that we all have to be a part of. So really, but to try to answer your question, we have to engage them. Engage the kids. Because a big problem we have right now is they're not engaged anymore. They're engaged with their phone. That's what they're learning. That's what they're doing. That's what they're seeing. My mom and dad are busy. Mom and dad are working. Schools, look, the schools have their own, they're overcrowded. They have so many issues. So who's engaging them? It takes us all. It takes us all. Someone had their hand up right over here.
Over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so, Lisa Majors, I'm a crisis chaplain, and I've been representing some kids that have had gang problems, been assaulted several times. We even press charges. This is Norma, the mother. So we've been trying to talk about this and contacting. We've had very little involvement with coming back from the police about this issue to this family, talking about this, about what we do. Very little help from the schools on how to keep this boy safe who's been assaulted, emergency room, and saying I need help. He was threatened to death if he came back on campus. Serious stuff. And then also he is telling of other boyfriends, his friends, buddies, that are getting pulled into the gang and are suicidal because they are feeling like they're stuck in the gang. So we do need to talk about this. I mean, when you say there's just one case, yeah, that's enough for us to be a community, come together and talk about this. So we are here as a community, as this actual event happening, especially with the background of the trauma that this family has come into the situation. And she is a quality good mom, you know, and we've got, you know, wonderful people that are coming around to this family, so we do need to talk about it. So we're saying where are the resources? We've had to pull him out of homeschool, which is not the best environment for this situation because he has some special needs. So he is going unmet right now. We're doing the best we can. And we need help. We need help. And so I'm calling out to you guys. We need help.
And that's what we have, that's what we're building all this, right? Cause if
Right,
I've
I love
never
this.
met you, right? And if I don't know, then how can I address it,
Yeah,
right?
I met you at the
Yeah,
task
at the
force.
human task force,
We
right?
need to talk.
Yeah.
I called you a couple times
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten anything.
Yeah,
done.
it's a lot, I get a lot of calls.
Yeah, I know.
So I have called, yeah.
And I called the task force too, of the gangs, and I need a call back. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because not only am I having this one family and then it extends out to their friends, I'm also involved with this stuff. And so I see a bigger picture here. And there's some change here in Paso Robles that we need to settle. We need to say, which way is Paso Robles gonna go? So that's just where I am at. Fentanyl's a huge problem.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, SLO County is #1 in accidental fentanyl deaths. And the average age of people dying from fentanyl accidentally is from what, 12, 14 on up?
I don't know the exact ages, but
Okay,
but
and I
yes, we have
remember-
victims all the way down that low, yes.
But that's, we were #1 in California, and I'm trying to find out, I was told, no, we're #1 in the United States, and I'm still trying to figure out that too. But we're #1 in California for fentanyl deaths. And I also have, one of our participants is a janitor at Cal Poly, and they are told right now, do not pick up certain piles of clothes. You let officials come with hazmat suits, because if they move something, they could die. We're dealing with a very dangerous subject here. So that's my 2 cents worth.
No,
I thank you for doing this, and I would really encourage us to do this a lot more. We need to come together as a community.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
take care of this, so thank you.
No, thank you for your comments.
You have another?
I'm sorry, sir, go ahead, ma'am.
Well, I really want to appreciate you to say, yeah, we had a gay problem. So this is something so big for me right now, hearing for you, authority, say, yes, we had a gay problem. Because school, they try to deny everything, police, and, for many, you guys not even know me, I even got traffic, and I've been 3 years trying to, okay, save my life, and now my son, there you go, I have to take care of my son. And it's so difficult because of school, now I have to bring my son to home, and it's the same thing, getting people out of my building. And I have to really be so hard, like a man, and there you go, I'm here, and asking, and you are the one. I so appreciate you, thank you so much.
No, well, thank you, because like I said, we need people to tell us.
Yeah, and so.
I need to hear some of those things, because we do want help.
And so we have incident reports at the apartment.
Right.
Of her getting harassed and threatened, and the son too, stalking, harassing, over and over and over. I mean, this is a daily thing there. And she called, and the response from the police was not anything of efficiency for their safety. So we're really stuck right now, and this boy is trapped in his apartment. He's not going out. That's a mental health issue, crisis here.
Ma'am, when we're done with this, do me a favor.
We need help.
No, when we're done with this, do me a favor. Can you get with Commander Renner?
Thank you.
And he'll give you a card, and let's start the conversation.
Wonderful,
Okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Oh, it's your turn, buddy.
I have 2 things. At first, why would they make TikTok and stuff if it just they would just put vaping and stuff on it?
When I can answer that question, I'll be rich and I won't have to work here anymore.
And the second one, because one gang member is a lot them because they can make other people online join them.
Yes, sir. Like I said, one is too many. And when you have one, you have a problem. When you have one drug user, you have a problem. And, you know, we work very hard. We are trying very hard to address those things. And yes, it's not, I don't want to make this bigger than it is, but Paso is not alone in the problems that we're facing. This is a national crisis. This is a city after city after city after city. Paso Robles, unfortunately, is not kept out of that loop. We're in it. You know, we talked about tourism, we talked about all those things. What comes through here every day? Fresno and Bakersfield. LA. That comes through our city every single day. We have a lot of arrests where I see the log and the person was from Bakersfield, from Fresno, from Tulare County, from, you know, again, we are trying, and this is part of that. Let's educate. Let's educate our community. Let's educate our parents. Let's educate our kids. And this has to be done together. We can't do it alone either. You know, we need your help, you know, but yes, at the end of the day, we are here to help. You know, we are here to come and we are here to answer your questions and we are here to come to you when you call us. You know, and if that doesn't occur, if something doesn't happen the way you feel it should, then please call and let me know, because if you don't, I don't know. Okay? Yes, sir.
So you are not denying that we have a problem?
I'm saying that.
I keep hearing we don't have a problem.
Okay.
We don't have a problem in our schools. We don't have a problem in this town. But from what I'm hearing from you tonight, yeah, we do.
What I'm saying is that one is too many. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, if you're talking in broader terms of do we have a problem, I came from Bakersfield, California.
Yeah, I came from San Jose.
We don't have a problem like they do.
Right.
Are we better than most? Yes, we are. Are we as bad as Santa Maria? No, we're not. Are we as bad as all, and I don't want it to get there.
There you go.
I came from a place where I watched it degrade.
Right.
I watched a city and a county go from a great place to live, family friendly, kids could go out, run around, do everything they wanted to do, to a place where you were scared to death to send your kids out.
So we're gonna be proactive about this then, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm paying tax money here and I wanna make darn
We all
sure that
pay,
it's
yeah,
going
right?
right.
We all work
Right,
hard.
right? No, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, I wanna make sure that the place I'm living in, I'm bringing my nieces here, is safe.
And that's why we're here, because we need to hear that, right? We need to kind of get a better understanding of what's going on, so we avoid all that. Because just like I said, I have kids in the school district just like most people here.
Right.
So I worry. So besides that, if you saw me without this, I'd be a regular person, a regular mom. I worry, just like everybody else, right? And so that's our proactiveness, is that we're trying to limit that. We all do that. We all have an investment. And this is just the first of our workshop, right? And so we just need to open that avenue, right? I think everybody, when it comes to our children, or the mama bear, the papa bear comes out, right? Because that's what we're there for, right? We want to protect our kids. So we have to, then I can see the passion in you, that's how it is, right? It affects you, you wonder, what can we do? This is just a start, but we need input, right? We need a little bit more, we need to have the conversations and go from there. We're all like that. I would be the same way. If I could be sitting here, I'd be asking the same questions, right? If I lived in another city, in Bakersfield, I lived there, I never saw once that they had stuff like this. I wish they would have had that, right? When I grew up in LA, they had the Dept program. I think a lot of people remember that kind of stuff. But those are the things that we right back then, why don't we bring that back? And it seemed so silly back then, but now it makes a little bit more sense, right? To bring that back, because it starts there. We need to start, look how young he is, and he knows so much, right? I'm like this, that he knows that much. It's insane, but it starts somewhere, right? So we have to talk about it, and sometimes it's frustrating, but if we don't talk about it, we can't figure it out, right? And then when our kids ask us, do we react by getting upset and lashing out? No, we avoid that, right? We have to kind of figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I figure out a solution at the end of the day, right? That's the thing, and I get that, like as a parent, like I said, I have one in the high school and I have one in a little one, and that's my thing. It's like, how do you stop that? So these are the things that we need to do. We need to talk about it and be proactive, not reactive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think, okay, sir.
Yes, sir. I wanted to go back to something that you said, and that was basically about opening up the lines of communications between the community and the police. And so one of my biggest concerns in the high school is really the presence of drugs. You know, there's a lot of focus on the vaping and the vape sensors and hundreds of thousands of dollars in vape sensors. But you had an incident in October where somebody sold a high potency THC gummy to another student on campus, sent her to the hospital. I don't know of any way you can detect that. The second incident was the drug bust a couple of weeks ago on
Tascadero or here?
Or here on the campus. It was in the parking lot, but he pulled into the parking lot. But after that happened, I had several high school teachers say that it's common for students or young adults to basically sneak onto campus during lunchtime to sell drugs. So I guess my question to you is, the big concern that people had with that drug bust was it was on social media before any report came out of the high school or out of the school district or the police department, which leads a lot of people to think that it would not have been reported had it not been for it being around social media and making it to
Well,
the
and the one
press.
thing I can tell you, I apologize that you didn't hear from me first, because we should have put that out. The police department should have put it out, and that has been addressed in my department. I can't sit here and tell you why it wasn't put out. I don't know the answer to that, other than we just had a sergeant on who didn't do it. But
So
it should have been
what
put
would
out.
you say is an acceptable period of time? Because I think if you want to get feedback immediately, the parents have to believe that you're taking it seriously.
As
And
far
so
as
would it be-
feedback, to put it,
Well, I
like to
would
put out
think
a
it would
press
be
release?
important for the parents to know immediately that.
The press
hey, you
release
had-
would have been put out that night.
Okay. Instead of, I think it was 96 hours. Or
No, the press release should have been put out that day.
It didn't hit until, I think that was on a Friday, it didn't hit until
Yes,
the
sir.
next.
I hear you, and I agree with you.
Okay. So I think that's gonna be important to address in the future, to get community involved.
I can tell you that one was addressed, and it shouldn't happen again, but also we're human. And, you know, my staff, at times, they do make mistakes. I stand by my staff. I have a great staff. You have a great police department here. You know, I stepped into a phenomenal situation. You know, there's just some things we can fine tune. There's some things we can do better, you know, and we're trying to do those things.
Okay, I do have one follow-on question. It's more gang related. So I had a lot of experience having to deal with gangs before, and wannabes has a specific definition. And so I'm hearing the word wannabes thrown around as people that are, you know, putting Sharpie tattoos on, but that's not the terminology that I'm used to. The wannabe terminology that I'm used to are people that are auditioning. And I was always taught that they're the most dangerous people in the whole gang terminology because they have something to prove. So when you use that term, are you talking about the kid that, you know, has the lick and paste tattoo, or are you talking about somebody that's already?
When I use the term, I'm using it as someone who is not a gang member. They are not someone who's, go ahead.
So when someone's considering themselves a wannabe, that means they're not even in the running to audition for anything yet. That means they're trying to get the gang entire.
For those of you who don't know you, can you just tell who you are?
Yeah, my name's Pastor Pete. I'm from Big Deer Outreach, Paso Robles, right here, and I am a specialist in gangs and drugs, and I know about all this. I grew up in Oxnard, my wife lived in Bakersfield, so we're here in the city, we're making an impact here. And I'm very familiar on the gangs. I've had lunch with Chief Nord, you know, Fana, Renner, you know, but someone that's a wannabe is someone that's not even in the running yet. It's someone that's trying to get the attention of somebody that may be in the running so they can potentially begin to take that path. So that will start off with the clothes, certain gang attire, certain language, certain maybe jerseys, whatever it may be. I'm wearing Dodgers today. As soon as you guys said that, man, I was like, man, I'm in Dodgers. Yeah, I'm in Dodgers, but a wannabe is someone that's not even auditioning or in the run or in the process of even being into initiation yet. There's someone that's trying to get the attention of those that are already doing it. So when they're sitting there talking about wannabes, and I can honestly say because I'm in the streets very much here in Paso, I'm out here late night. I have gang members and drug addicts that live in my house right now that are in recovery, and there's not that type of gang problem here in the city. You know, and I know there's some that are out there, there's some that are hardcore, but to be honest with you, most of the ones that were hardcore, they're in the city, are either trying to turn their lives around or they're probably in jail. You know, they're not really so much out there in the streets being active right now. And so we could be preemptive on reaching those ones that are the wannabe phase and catch them and be able to steer them in a different direction, and that's definitely doable. But as far as that being an initiation, it's not, sir.
To your point, sir, I completely hear what you're saying, and you're right. The ones who are literally auditioning, they're the ones who are gonna go out and commit those crimes because they wanna be a part of the gang. So I hear you, but that's
Yeah,
not
I'm just
what
trying to get terminology down, so
That's
when I
not
hear it in
what
the
I'm
future, I
talking
understand what it is.
Um,
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to share that Darren was in Bakersfield, but, we're talking about resources, and if that's something that you guys are planning on building or starting something new.
We actually did, we said Officer Ellis went through the 2-week program, DARE program.
Oh, is it called DARE?
Yeah, they're bringing
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
okay.
she's actually trained to, start that program. Unfortunately, she's out right now. But they're bringing it back because they found that it was actually successful, back in the day. I grew up in LA County, so.
In Oxnard, they used all the confiscated drug dealer cars for the DARE cars, and it would say that on the bottom.
And, another thing I want, another thing I wanted to say is, that's for everybody in this room, as the, department begins to build and maybe create and establishing resources, it's our responsibility to really be proactive and to come behind them hands-on to do work to help it grow, because it'll be, you know, for all of us, and one of the things I wanted to, the last thing, was that, I do what's called cyber evangelism once a year, and I only do it once a year because it's very graphic and I don't like to look at all those pictures, but, you know, as a part of our ministry as a whole, we're international, and I go on and just, you know, there's different websites every single year, but when I put up San Luis Obispo County, like last year it was called Alligator, and there's so much human trafficking and prostitution going on just in this county, and so I'm just sharing, you know, Jesus loves you. I'm sharing we have a woman's home, you know, if you want to leave what you're doing and come live with us. So it's huge here though.
Yeah, just cause like you said.
And we're a resource for you guys.
Yeah, that's a resource, right? We're learning about a resource. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
you guys didn't know Pastor Pete and his wife, now you know that's a point of contact to kind of come together, right?
Mr. Bash was.
Thank you, Chief. With all due respect to Pastor Pete, and to Kenny Henning, to Officer Place, and Gonzalez, parents have a different perspective. The truth is somewhere out there in the center. I was in the school board for 10 years, there are a lot of complaints. When a parent feels like there is gang activity, whether it's wannabe or auditioning, what's the best course of action as of tonight? We call officers, Gonzalez in Place. We'd overwhelm your desk if we called your office every time. What's the best, is there anything that the city can set up for a hotline or a website? What can we do?
I would say right now, that's part of our SRO program. It would be, you need to communicate with the school, you need to communicate with, you know, whatever the counselors are. You need, if it's something that you feel is dangerous, if you find something that you feel is just, as a parent, it's in your gut, it's just something doesn't feel right, call us.
How long should we wait before we feel like there's some kind of an appropriate response? That has happened over the years.
When you say how long should I wait, what do you mean?
A day.
When you find it,
72
as a
hours.
parent, if you find something or you're seeing something?
If you're suspicious with, you call, leave a message, expect them to call back or a follow-up.
So I'm actually saying if you as a parent have a concern, like you find something and you're like, this isn't right, something's not right here, call the non-emergency line, call our dispatch. We will send an officer out there, that's what we're here for. You know, we will come out there and then we can help you manage that at that moment. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, yeah, but
We
call,
have to-
but call us.
We have to get involved, we have to.
Yes.
Absolutely put ourselves out there, being the point I'm trying to, okay, let's call dispatch.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
First, as a community member, thank you guys for your presentation at the school board as well as here. It's been really informative. And thank you to the school for having you come in. What I'm hearing is it's our responsibility as adults to pitch in and help you and the schools and our community. It's easy for us to say it's your job. It's great for us to say it's their job, but it's really on us. So if we want to continue, and I wanna thank the pastor for stepping up, that is awesome, thank you very much. We have resources here, so as a community, let's pull together and start using them, and quit looking at everybody else to fix the problems. But again, thank you very much, I've enjoyed every part of what you're doing for the schools. As a community member and somebody that's nosy, I've been watching you, trust me, and you guys are awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
The last one?
I think someone back here had a question, just one second. Ma'am?
I just wanted to say, fentanyl is a problem nationwide. It's a synthetic drug, it's 50 times more powerful than heroin and 100 times more powerful than morphine. So I was just looking at the California Department of Public Health statistics for 2021, I couldn't find it for last year. So I think it's really important, I don't doubt that one child being affected by it is too many. But when we say that San Luis Obispo County has the greatest number, well, what is that number? And I think before we all get crazy, you didn't have the number. Well, in 21, there were 224 fentanyl-related dates between the ages of 15 and 19 for the entire state. So I don't know what the number is here, and like I said, but we shouldn't be, shouldn't get crazy. We should try and figure out what the problem is. And so let's find out what the numbers are. We can ask the San Luis Obispo County, Public Health Department what those statistics are, as opposed to the headline reading tomorrow, we have the largest number of fentanyl deaths in the state.
Chief Stornetta with the fire department actually just recently released those numbers at a city council meeting. So, I mean, they're not good. I'm not gonna sit up here and tell you they're good, so I'm not really sure. They're bad, we all agree they're bad.
And we also have a university right in the center of our.
We have a
town,
university.
So
So for anyone that doesn't know, one thing I do wanna bring up, when it comes to the fentanyl deaths, the county has actually created a task force to investigate all fentanyl overdoses as homicides. That didn't used to occur. That is not something that used to happen. A overdose was, that person shouldn't have taken so many drugs and died. We are now trying to investigate them to lead back to the dealers. They are literally, the district attorney is part of it, the sheriff is a part of it, all of the cities are a part of it. All of these, there's a task force, and when there's a fentanyl overdose, we are investigating them as homicides. That is what we are now doing. So we are trying to get to the core root of it, not just have a statistic as another number. But again, this is all new. These are things, and when I say new, I don't mean it just happened today or just happened this week.
what is the new, because that's my concern is,
Right.
there's a new one out there, and what is it? And that's what we need to be aware of as well.
Talk about it.
I know it's a sedative. I work with a lot of doctors, and one of our doctors works in the emergency in the hospital up in Ukiah, and he says one of the biggest overdoses happening right now are people who are taking what's called tranq. And I know it's got fentanyl. There's a lot of bootleg pills out there. It's got fentanyl, but it's also a tranquilizer together.
And the Narcans aren't working on it really either.
And it's flesh eating.
Yeah, the Narcan has flesh eating, the Narcans also aren't able to bring somebody back with overdose on it.
Go ahead.
Well, yes, I use your service, I call the number, and especially one apartment in my place, and guess what? Your guys officer show up and knock, and there's one side and they leave, and there is little kids, and there is now only one time, other people call, but nothing happened, and I feel like if you guys, I don't know if you guys get trained trauma, or I don't know, another staff, because it's over like maybe 30 phone calls for this place. So one apartment. So and the people just they're more smart than you guys because and it's like wow. So if you guys really like receive like 3 phone calls maybe a week, so immediately probably you guys start knowing something's happened over there, and you guys really focus in a little bit. So trying to save little kids, trying to save the community because they're like cacahuachas there, really.
No, yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. I have my 26-year-old, my oldest, went to Paso High. They used to bring a drug sniffing dog to the high school, and it was great because all the kids were afraid to get caught. How come you guys don't do that anymore?